So, Galilee is both a region and a town. And so, it's up north in what used to be the northern kingdom of Israel. So in Jesus' time, up north, most of the scenes in the Gospels take place in one of two places. Down south around Jerusalem and the River Jordan combines, kind of connects the two, south and north. So you have the Dead Sea and Jerusalem down south. And then up north you have the Sea of Galilee, and that's where Jesus spends some of his time as well. So we go back and forth. And so I don't want, this is a little geography lesson because I'm sure you're confused, right? You're like, Gennesaret, I've never heard of Gennesaret. Where is the Sea of Gennesaret? Well, Gennesaret is one of the towns around the Sea of Galilee, and the Sea of Gennesaret is the same as the Sea of Galilee. So, cleared that up for you. I'm sure you were worried about it. I know I was. So, up here, the Sea of Galilee, it's big. It's a great big lake. So big they call it a sea. And it has a lot of little towns around the shore. And each of these little towns is kind of in a little inlet or around, and there's a lot of these little shorelines that have these little inlets, and that become sort of a natural little amphitheater. And that's why Jesus uses this opportunity in this place to speak, because people are there and they can hear him. So Jesus teaches in this little amphitheater, this natural opening in the lake. And as he teaches, there are two kinds of hearers that listen. There are the people who have come specifically to listen to him. They're gathered and they're saying, listen, teach us, we're here to hear. And then there are bystanders, people who just happen to be there while he's projecting out his voice and it's sort of landing on them. And that's who Peter is. Peter is there fishing with his partners, James and John. They have two boats, they have a little operation, and they go out together, and they come back in together, and they help mend the nets together, and they're fishing, and they've been out all night long. Yeah? They've been all night. So they're just there, and Jesus is talking, and they happen to overhear him, and Jesus says, listen, I got to get out here so you can all hear me. Let me borrow one of these boats. Lend me one of your boats. Put me in it, and Simon Peter does, and puts him out into the shallow area, and that's where they can hear him. So he's teaching from Simon Peter's boat. And then Jesus teaches Simon Peter. And here's where I'm going to become for you just shortly, just to embody an evangelical preacher for you. So, there are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to add one more. 7 C words. And if this were an evangelical John, you'll feel quite comfortable here. You would write these down and you'd take them and if you ever watch somebody on television, this is what we're going to do. But anyways, 7 C words. So first of all, to Simon Peter, there's a command. And the command is, go out to the deeper water. Deeper water, of course, would be more dangerous. It's also where the fish would be. Yeah? So put out to the deeper water. That's the command to Simon Peter. Then there's the conflict, the second C word. The conflict where Peter says, look, we've been out all night fishing. We've been in that very same water with 2 boats, no less. We have caught nothing. The conflict. We're not going to be able to catch anything. Yeah? How would you like it if somebody came to you, you've been doing it all night long, catch nothing. Now somebody who's not even a fisherman comes out and says, go out here, and you wouldn't know, right, Steve? You'd be like, forget about you. You fish all night lots of times, right? Somebody comes just to come on the shore and says, listen, trust me. Say, forget about it. I was out all night long. There's no fish out there. Okay, that's the conflict. Now, what's next? The catch. Third C, the miraculous catch. So what happens? They do put out their nets in the deeper water, and miracle of miracles, they catch more fish than they've ever caught. This huge net filled with fish. They pull it in, and it's so much that the boat is going to sink. That's a lot of fish. And so much they have to call another boat to come out and help them. That's a lot of fish. They didn't think there were any. All right, the fourth C. Then Simon Peter says, he recognizes, that Jesus is the Messiah, who he says he was. And he says, I'm not worthy to be in your presence. Forgive me. Go away from me, Lord. I'm not worthy. I see who you are now. I'm not worthy. Confession. Then the call where Jesus says, look, don't worry about it. I'm going to make you fish for people. The call. And then Peter's complete change. I threw it an extra C for you. A complete change of life. Right? And you know it's a complete change of life because he's a fisherman in a little fishing enterprise. What does Peter end up, Catholics? Right? The bishop of Rome is the right answer. Yes, I was waiting for you, Curtis. Rome. Yes. Right? They say the first bishop. Right? Like, Peter is the guy. Like, where would we be without Peter? All this because he had the guts to go along with Jesus, and he recognized who Jesus was, and he put out his net in an empty boat, and Jesus filled it up. And from there, you have to admit that Peter's life was never the same. I don't know if it was better or for worse, right? He dies a martyr, I think. But you have to say it was never the same. And of course, I think this is the value equation for every Christian. And when I say value equation, I'm thinking about going and buying something, like a new pair of shoes. The value equation is I've got this money, and here's the shoes. Are the shoes going to bring me enough pleasure to offset the loss of the money? That's the value equation. And every business is trying to figure that out so they can make sure that you appreciate that the value equation works for you, right? This is the value equation of Christianity, brothers and sisters. Is what you have to give up to be a Christian, to follow Christ, worth what you get when you follow Christ? That's the answer. That's the question you have to answer. That's the question Peter had to answer. Okay. What would your life be like without these moments? When you maybe it's every day you make a new decision to follow Christ. When you literally make a decision that you're going to follow Christ. What would your life be like if you had never made that decision? Maybe you haven't made it yet. Okay. If I were an evangelical preacher, we would go on another 40 minutes on the seas. But we're not going to do that because I'm an Episcopalian. We're going to go 5 more minutes on 2 points I want to make for you. Okay? First, this is my big point. Your boat needs to be empty in order for Jesus to do anything with you. It's just the truth. And here's what I mean. What would have this scene been like had they caught all the fish they wanted that night? What would Peter and James and John have done if Jesus said, come on out, let's go fishing? They'd be like, listen, we fished all night, got everything we need, sorry. Here, you can borrow the boat, if you want. Take some of those people with you, but we're not going, right? That's not what happened. They go out into the deeper water with an empty boat. Who needs God when your boat is full of fish? Who needs God when your heart is full of joy and love? Who needs God when your bank account is full of money? Who needs God when your life is full of stuff and things so full that you don't have room for God? Who needs God when everything's going great? You'd be like, no, listen, I'm fine. I'm fine. You should talk to my brother, or whatever, yeah? I'm fine. It is the empty space where God can work. That's what I want you to remember from today, right? Your life, you have to create the empty space. Maybe it's already empty, but maybe you're so full, your life is so full, your boat is so full that you got to think about creating space for God. Why don't you have space for God in your life? Oftentimes, maybe your family, you're doing great. Maybe your career is going great. Maybe you have all you need in every area. But maybe that's hard for God to work on that, right? Maybe you are here today frustrated with something. Maybe you're broken by something or someone. Maybe you're searching for something. Maybe you're hungry for something. Maybe you don't even know what it is. You just know you have something gnawing at you. Something's not right. Do you have room in your life for God is the question that today's text is asking, I think. Would you be willing to let go of some things in order to make room for God? And again, I'm not necessarily talking about things. You know, it could be anything that's keeping you from this place of asking God, listen, I need whatever you have. I'm willing. Right? What would those things be that you might let go of? So big point one, your boat needs to be empty in order for Jesus to do anything with you. Big point two, there are virtually zero requirements except an empty boat. Yeah? There's nothing else you need. You can't, there's no such thing as too poor, or too old, or too young, or too weak. Right? It's never too late, and it's never too early. There is only too self-involved, too greedy, too proud, too busy, too important, too smart. No matter who you are, no matter how rich, how poor, how young, how old, how educated, or how just street smart you are, God makes you the same deal that God made Peter. God makes you the same deal that God makes everybody. Let down your nets, God says. Just do it, God says. Wouldn't you be interested to see how God might fill the net if you just let it down? Okay. So this week, I challenge you. This week, I challenge you to consider yourself and your life in terms of Peter's moment. Can you create some space in your life for God to work? If you can't, well, stop listening. You know, or if you can't, you probably stopped listening 5 minutes ago. But if you can create space in your life for God to work, if you think you can, ask yourself, where is there room in my life for God to work? What is broken? What is empty? What is needful? And then put down your nets. No matter who you are or what you think might happen, just follow that simple command of Christ. Put down your nets. Right? And then see if a miracle occurs. Yeah? Because see, you're not responsible for the miracle part. That's God's work. You're just responsible to put down your nets and see if the miracle happens. And what you do next is up to you. Peter got up and followed. And his life was never the same.